In a small town nestled between rolling hills there lived a stray dog named Bruno. He spent most of his days roaming the streets, always on the lookout for something to eat. One afternoon, Bruno found himself outside a busy meat shop. The smell of fresh meat wafted through the air, making his mouth water. As he sat there, his eyes fixed on the juicy cuts displayed on the counter, Bruno's stomach growled loudly. He knew that the shopkeeper was kind and often gave him bones, but today Bruno wanted something more, a nice big piece of meat all to himself. Bruno made a plan. He sat there watching the shopkeeper as he served the customers. He decided to wait for the right moment when the shopkeeper would be distracted. Finally, the opportunity came. The shopkeeper got busy with the customer, and Bruno seized the chance. With a swift and silent movement, he darted into the shop, grabbed a large piece of meat with his teeth, and bolted out. Bruno ran as fast as his legs could carry him, not stopping until he reached the edge of town. There, a small bridge crossed over a clear stream. Feeling safe at last, Bruno slowed down and began to trot across the bridge, the piece of meat still firmly clutched in his mouth. As Bruno walked across the bridge, he glanced down at the water and saw his reflection. In his greedy mind, he thought it was another dog with an even bigger piece of meat. "That dog has a bigger piece of meat than I do," Bruno thought. "If I could get that piece too, I would have double the meat." Without thinking, Bruno opened his mouth to bark at the reflection, hoping to scare the other dog and take its meat, but as soon as he opened his mouth, the piece of meat he was carrying fell out and splashed into the stream below. Bruno watched in horror as the meat sank into the water and was carried away by the current. He barked and whined, but it was too late. His greed had cost him everything. The reflection in the water disappeared, and Bruno was left standing on the bridge, hungry and with nothing to show for his efforts. Feeling foolish and regretful, Bruno slowly made his way back to the town. His stomach growled with hunger, but more than that, his heart felt heavy with the realization of what he had done. When Bruno returned to the meat shop, he saw that the shopkeeper had already noticed the missing meat. But instead of being angry, he just shook his head with a knowing smile. Bruno sat down outside, his head hanging low. He had learned a hard lesson that day, that greed could make you lose what you already have. And so Bruno became a wiser dog, content with the bones that shopkeeper gave him, and never again did he try to steal from the shop. He understood that it's always better to be grateful for what you have rather than lose it all to greed.